Good morning, neighbors. We're ready to start. Thank you.
Eric, before just tell them, turn these into B or the W9.
One pink phone and handouts on the video technician's chair. You didn't want to sit on it. Familiar to anybody? Pink phone, iPhone. Okay, we'll find out who that is. If you have filled out your W9, you can get that to Dorothy or to Lisa when you're ready. And then let's collect ourselves with what we can count on you to do.
Just to talk to people who are doing what you're doing.
Baby in the world is the favorite, and that's
Thank you. Okay, this next part of our agenda is about appreciative inquiry, and we're going to take a little deeper dive with that, and it's going to match right into our work this afternoon. So I'm not going to be teaching, so I'm just going to be screaming at you right now. Lori is going to be your teacher on appreciative inquiry.
It's a weird blue.
That's all right.
Hello.
I'm on it.
All right. So, thanks.
Is that one or two? Wireless one or two? Which one?
How do we know two?
I'm on it to you. Let me know if it's too loud or.
All right. So, before
Okay.
how was that for you? Before we actually start into the doing of the work, I want to make sure you can find the resources we're going to need. So you are going to want this one that you hopefully picked up out in the hallway. And then we are going to be working and reading the big packet that Lisa sent you a link to. And it's in the Facilitator folder, Appreciative Inquiry, Foundations and Practice. It's like a 100-page document.
It was the other one. It was sent a while ago.
Is that link sent through the email that invited you today, reminded you the things you're supposed to bring?
No, we didn't get it. I had it. I didn't get the original script this time. No. We did not get an email telling us this was just sent. Came in an email a while ago. And we used some of it. Because we went through it.
That's the booklet. This is the booklet. Pull it out. Appreciative Inquiry, Foundations and Practice. It's in your Facilitator folder. You have it in your folder.
So Lori, it sounds like an email was not sent to people.
That's what it sounds like.
So where did you say we might be able to find this?
In the Facilitator folder. Yes? Is it, Jen, did you see it in both the March 2 and March 23? So there are two folders in your facilitator folder. One says March 2 training and one says March 23 training. And it's called Appreciative Inquiry. Is that what it's called on the link to? Appreciative Inquiry, Foundations and Practice. It's 100 and some pages. Everybody finding it?
No, I'm just having it on.
All right, so we'll figure out why you didn't get an email.
What's the title page? Foundation.
I need to see Maureen Slammer too. What?
Oh, no, wait.
Oh, sorry. Was that Where is he sitting?
All right, are we good?
Okay, it says foundations and practice briefing.
Who still needs the link to the big handout?
Some of us are still logging in.
Okay. Yep. Yep. That's fine. I just want to make sure we're good to go. We don't have lost traps or anything.
That's what that's part of the conversation. We just hit a
Can I help anybody else? It is right inside. There it is.
All right, how many people still are trying to find the big packet? One. Getting closer. Okay, so if you need some additional assistance getting connected, can you just raise your hand so we can have somebody maybe help you connect in? Otherwise, we're gonna get going. Are we okay? All right. So when we were together last, Pat Reeves shared the first look at appreciative inquiry with you all. And so this little cartoon should look familiar. And the idea, in a nutshell, is that appreciative inquiry is more asset-based, more strength-focused than it is deficit-focused, right? And so you guys practiced writing some questions, and we're gonna do a little bit of more work with those questions that you wrote in just a few minutes. But here are what are called the 4 Ds of appreciative inquiry, and this is what we're gonna dive into a little deeper in that big packet that you have. And so the first one is discovery. The next one is dream. The third one is design. And the fourth is destiny. Don't those sound like good things? Yeah. So what we're going to do is we are going to jigsaw the big packet so that you're not all reading 126 pages right now. And we didn't want to give you that for homework either. So come on, big round of applause there. So what we're going to do is we are going to go around and, well, maybe I won't actually have you count off. I'll just do it by tables. Okay? Does that feel a little better?
Yes.
All right. It would take us 20 minutes to count off and then we'll move you around.
And then forget.
All right. So this table and this table are going to do 1.
Okay.
Okay?
What is one?
Just a second. Just let me get your numbers first. You know, I have had Janice in instructional rounds, and I'm just saying, you know, the term cat herder, that is what I am when I'm with Janice. All right. So, am I right? Okay.
Absolutely.
And who am I today? Because she called me like 4 names the other day. I was first, I was...
Ed?
That's the one I wasn't going to answer to. All right, so these 2 are 1. You guys are 2. You guys are 3. You 3 are 4. Okay? All right. So this is the part you have to pay attention to by number. Everybody knows their number, right? Okay, so the number 1s are going to read, so everybody's going to read 39 to 42. So everybody write this down. 39 to 42. Then the 1s are, in addition, going to read 43 to 47. The 2s are going to read 48 to 52. The 3s are going to read 53 to 58. And the 4s are going to read 59 to 62. Okay? Everybody got their assignment? Okay, so as you are reading, what you're going to be looking for, and you can just scribble this on anything. There are sheets, big yellow sheets of paper, but there's only currently enough of those for every 2 people. But what you're going to do is write key learnings and then links to the HIL project. So if you want to make a T-chart on whatever you're writing on so that you can pull out those things. That's eventually what we're going to want to be able to share with people. Okay? So the very first thing you're going to do is read this top section. Everyone's going to read page 39 to 42. Then you're each going to read your own subsection. And while you're doing that, you're looking for key learnings. If you were going to teach this section to somebody else, what would you want them to know? And as you're reading it, what does it remind you about with the HIL project? Okay. What do you want to remember for your work here? So what questions do you have about your task? I'm going to check in with you in 15 minutes and see whether you're done with your reading in 15, and we'll see whether we need more time. Okay, we'll put the timer up. All right. coming up on the draw. All right, time check. So let me just kind of refine our directions a little bit so you know what the next step is, and then you tell me whether you need more time before we go to that next step. Okay, so what I'm going to ask you to do is to meet with the other tables that had your same assignment. And when you meet with the other tables that had your assignment, you're going to be at one of these big charts. So the Destiny and Design group, somebody from your group come up and get those charts and bring them back there somewhere. But what I would like you to do is feel good about where you're at right now as a table group to be able to bring to those larger group those two things, the key learnings and the connections to the grant. So are you ready to move to the big group? Or give me like how many minutes you need in order to be ready to move. I'm seeing 5, 4, 2, 5. Are you good with 5? All right, so we're going to take 5 minutes. I probably won't set that awful alarm again. I'll just give you like the 30-second warning, okay, on the 5 minutes. And then if somebody from groups 3 and 4 would come get their easels so that I'm not trying to maneuver between you. And then you can just huddle up wherever it makes sense to do that. And you're going to come up with your combined lists of key learnings and connections to the project. Okay? So 5 minutes. Thank you.
So what I decided to do
And say why, but then when you talk about the three areas, I think that can be much more open-ended. That's how I teach.
I think that I'm going to go backwards and forward. So I've had the luxury of having the opportunity to go to metal before rounds. And so I got to just say, talk to me about what you're doing, share with me about what you're doing. And so to have that time to talk with the principal and the literacy coach and my team, and hear everything is helpful. At the same time, I'm doing 2 different instructional rounds, so I see what that is, what happens with that. So it's wonderful to get to
Okay, if you would huddle up by the appropriate chart with the rest of your group.
completely different approach to what that's going to be. Because I already know what they're doing. I already know what they're working on. I already have this idea. And so it's really that instructional round process.
So bring whatever notes you need so that you can talk with your colleagues
It's an opportunity
to be able to complete your chart.
another piece of information and other things. And they get to choose what they do and what they don't do. It's not this is what we're doing. They get to pick. What they do and what they don't do.
Let's all stand up.
We're having a stand-up meeting over here.
Bring your own drink.
So if you can hear my voice, raise your hand, please. Thank you. So what we're going to do right now is you're going to bring whatever notes you need. You're going to be near enough to your chart paper. I know we got one fairly large group. You're going to be near enough to your chart paper so that somebody in your group can be a scribe and complete both sides of the T-chart. Okay? So we want to be able to do that in about 10 minutes. And then what I'd like you to do is elect a spokesperson in your group who can give us the highlights for each one of the Ds. All right? So you need someone who's going to be a scribe, everyone's going to contribute, and someone who's going to report out for your group. So we're going to try and do that in about 10 minutes. So we'll aim for 12 minutes to 12. All right? Go. Okay.
Straight face.
I can do it. Sure. Yes. All right. Sustainability.
Iterative and evolutionary.
Iterative and evolutionary.
Builds an appreciative eye. Builds an appreciative eye. Co-construct a new future. Preferred future.
Build, co-construct a preferred future. Architecture. So it's your vision.
Thank you.
So 4 key parts of the destiny phase.
So school improvement is not a team of 5 people. How do we put
Celebrating successes.
that design process so that
Oh, yeah. Project
Action.
multiple aspects
Action.
of innovation, but all aspects of, homeschool relations, collaboration, staff relations,
Commitment. Okay, what was this one?
Celebrating successes.
We have to get more people rather than that relational dynamics, the last bullet. Collaboration of others.
To keep the learning process fresh and new.
And I just put down fresh and new?
Oh, did you? Yes, fresh and new.
Building capacity. Continuous inquiry. If you want to fit one more, or unless somebody else has something.
No, that's a big one.
Can you repeat it?
Yeah, okay. Connections to HIL. I say celebration. Celebrate.
Sustainability.
So far. Just keep going.
Sustainability is important. Sustainability.
So when we think about that, the HIL project, evolutionaries related to continuous improvement, ongoing, ongoing review and analysis, next steps, continuous improvement.
we're really building systems.
Helping them.
Make their vision come to life.
I'm gonna add, Margie, to this, I'm just gonna say focus. That's
Okay.
huge.
Yeah,
And it's all related.
yeah.
There's something about building the ability within a school to
We're about halfway through our time, folks.
With that,
Halfway.
So I think there is a lot of negative thinking about their own school in some cases. Yeah, something like that.
I think the whole idea about data-driven. That makes me expand it into best practices. Well, and that makes me think of institutionalizing it, so when you go away.
Yeah.
Yes.
As soon as it's not a select.
We had talked about that this takes a long time, and so it's nice that there's a 3-year commitment because to work through this process is something that's going to take probably 3 years to get through that cycle and then sustain it.
May take more, I mean, my experience is usually I think 5 years.
But it's not 1 year, it's not 1 day.
Fun somehow, maybe the word fun isn't the word, but.
Oh, I think that's a good word.
What I think that fun comes from that. I like this analogy to jazz.
Yeah, everybody, that was really good.
We get to know each other so well, get to play off with each other.
It's fun that way. They have proud. You just come in, you got what everybody's doing, make it all prettier.
But what I liked about that jazz analogy is that it also had some structure that people were innovating from or away from, you know? And some of that wasn't real evident in the other part of the text, you know?
Can I piggyback on what you said? Because I don't know.
There is a
how to
structure to jazz.
Yeah, yeah.
I liked how it talked about plans written with a spirit of flexibility. And that whole idea that, you know, you have all of this structure, but also through it, we have to take into account that situations change. Things change, technology change, more people come in, more things come in. I think that we can help in that way. The fact that we are there, we can help them not have blinders. We can help them to see that. So,
Does that represent enough, Johnny?
I know what that means. We all know what that means?
Yeah.
Cool. Well done.
Things happen.
I think it builds capacity, I think it develops.
So this is your 2-minute warning.
I didn't hear you, Bob.
I just said developing trust, creating trust.
That's a good one.
Make sure you have a spokesperson.
Who's got the closest birthday?
Abby, got it.
February? Karen? All right!
She wondered why you were born
April? Okay, you ready? Does this reflect? Anything to add? Uh-huh. That's old.
Well, you know, I always keep, when this reflects back to something I knew a long time ago, I say, well, why wouldn't it? We keep building on the best things we've always done. So, we shouldn't be able to look back and say, oh, it all started here, or we did this right, or this was institutionalized, good job. Yay, team.
30 seconds.
I do not have an email that they were. It was not today. It was like a week or so ago. And I said that until they heard that they couldn't get used only in that way, they had
All right. Pretend you hear a really obnoxious buzzer. Awesome. Okay. Okay, you guys can catch up over lunch. It's all right. No, there was no sarcasm. All right. You guys are really good at following time frames. That's amazing. So here's what I would like to do. We have a spokesperson, yes, for each group. So if that spokesperson could come stand by their chart paper, and what we're going to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to have group 1 go first. And what I would invite you all to do is listen, but also maybe follow along with whatever pages that group is referencing. And be thinking about, as they're sharing their key learnings and connections to the HIL project, first of all, if you have anything that you would like clarification on, because you didn't get a chance to read this as deeply as this group. Or secondly, if you have something that you think you could add. Okay? So questions or something that you might add as the person is sharing what their group came up with. So, you're first, Maureen. You won the prize? All right.
No, I wasn't fast enough on that.
Oh.
So, key learnings in the discovery section is focusing on the success, taking time to learn their history and identify those exceptional moments that school had or they have experienced. Looking at inquiry and reflection, getting them to begin to reflect, spinning the negatives as the positives. So sometimes they get bogged down in the negatives, but to spin it up into the positive. This requires like a systems change and helping them to be open to it. Mining for the data for the can, not just for what we can't do, but then also looking at their attempts, so as they move toward the can, what are we attempting to do that will get to our vision? And then debriefing and finding what is it that we found throughout the system. And then connections to the HIL project, we're looking at the pause, the paraphrase, the pose, and the probing questions. So allowing us to use those cognitive coaching skills to be able to draw out. This links to the instructional rounds process because we're looking at the celebrations, we're looking at recommendations, but also what's the magic wand? If this is going to happen, what's that magic wand going to be? It goes into, assuming the positive intent, which rounds does, creating the renewal plan, keeping it focused, and helping them become, I know I was gesturing, self-winding. You talk about reading and recovering, we want self-winding kids who will keep learning and being strategic readers. The self-winding is continuing focusing on that vision. So what do I have? Where are we? What do we have to adjust and adapt so we keep self-winding to get to that positive vision for the school? So it's that constant renewal, reflection, what are our next steps, how are we going to measure, how we're gonna know? It's teaching and learning cycle.
Okay. So I apologize, I should have been standing near Maureen so you all could hear, but you had amazing teacher voice, so I think everybody could hear you. So are there any questions for clarification for this group, or things that anybody would think would be added to their chart? No? Okay. All right, so let's go up here. Here, I'll stand by you.
Okay, so we had a dream, and it became very apparent right off the bat that really that dream, the basis for that dream has to honor the history, and then that has to honor the positive, the successful piece of their history, the best history, and that's where sometimes it requires intentionality. You have to dig deeper. You really have to hold on to. It comes out through the instructional rounds. We have found out that we will find some of that best history when we celebrate that piece in the instructional rounds. But in order for them to begin to think about what they can be, they have to honor where they are and really celebrate that. But then the dreaming part is what can they be? It's what's their most desired future? What is it that we want those students to be able to do, what they look like, what they feel like, elevate the best. And that, we had that conversation. I bet you told us we were supposed to do this first and this second, because ours went better. We found out that in some of our unique situations that we're in, that we have to focus on the dream for the students. It's that organizational dream, not necessarily, and then that will dictate or transform into what the actions of the staff is, and hopefully will become the dream of the staff too. But staffs are transient. We're not finding teachers in buildings for that long of a time anymore, and the same with principals. So we really have to focus on what the dream is for the students. We also talked about how the narrative, the story, has to be told, has to be heard, has to be celebrated, and we talked about how that's where we get excited. That's where the juices start going when we hear that narrative, and then that brings us to the positive, provocative propositions. The possibilities, what the future could be, what we can be working on. How did I do? Okay. Are there questions that you want clarified? Anything you want clarified? Anything to add? All right. Where's my group number 3? Right here.
Okay, so when thinking about design with regard to appreciative inquiry, there's really 3 big ideas. So key learnings around architecture, work processes, and relational dynamics. So some of the questions and connections to our work, thinking about that architecture piece, how do we redefine and rethink school improvement? So how can we shift it from being a group of 5 people to everyone being a part of the school improvement process? You don't have a select few that are teacher leaders. Everyone is a teacher leader. So how do we think about our work? And also, really with the architecture piece, it's co-creating those systems and processes. And we talked, as we're into some of our schools, we found that every school is in a different place. Some have systems, some have processes, some have both, but our job is not to create new, but it's to align. I think Teresa really used, and Jen really used that align word, which is so important when thinking about architecture.
questions? All right, our last group.
Well, we were a little more wordy, but that's kind of how we rolled. We thought some of the key learnings were that whatever we did had to be strength-based. And we see that happening when we do our rounds as well, looking at that strength first, but really digging in and talking to people what they see their strengths are. It has to be sustainability. It's evolutionary, and what we mean by that is it's, when we read the Destiny card, it seemed about like, don't do what you've always done. Really think outside the box. Really try and talk about what works in your school. And we love the analogy. I'm going to jump to it first because it explains our thinking about being a jazz player. So when you're in a jazz band, there are some rules, some regulations. They start to play. But what happens is your mates start to, do a riff off of you. But it's still within the rules because we set that. And so that seemed a lot of what the Destiny was about, is having some place to go, but also having that ability to be flexible and have the different groups. So we thought that was just a powerful analogy that we took through the whole thing. We needed to build an appreciative eye, and again, we've seen that in the rounds. We need to co-construct a preferred future, and we love that because that is getting at what we really, really want based on all the evidence that we have, and to do it together as a team. Of course, buy-in is really critical. And we saw 4 key parts. They were action, innovation, collaboration, and commitment. Always celebrating success, finding the supportive infrastructure that was there. Fresh and new, you're going to hear that a lot in Destiny. It's really something that was evident in the article. Building capacity, and again, and I think Maureen said that continuous inquiry, that self-renewal. So how we thought it connected was the celebration that we need to do a lot in the schools, that we would support this work, continuous improvement, ongoing review and analysis, that focus, that data that we talked about. Shared leadership is huge. Building capacity for that appreciative eye. Staff don't necessarily always see the good things in their building, right? And you kind of have to train them to say, we want to go to the negative, what do we have to fix? But that's a skill that I think you have to learn. So everything is data-driven, research-driven, which is best practices. Again, we brought up that self-renewal. And we understand that change takes a long time. So this is a 3-year commitment. We tossed around, maybe it actually takes 5 years, but at least we have 3 years. And again, the fun part was, we liked that jazz analogy a lot. Flexibility and trust.
Thank you. Any questions for this group or things that you would like to add? All right, so I have one task for you before we break for lunch. And this is going to be either in groups of 2s or 3s. So you can decide at your table. You have enough of these big 11 by 17 kind of, what do you call that, goldenrod color?
Yeah.
So you can be in 2s or 3s. And what I would like you to do is to reflect on, we heard it a couple times as the groups were reporting out, didn't we, about the connection to school improvement, continuous improvement process. And so what I'd like you to do is think about, from what you just found out or dug deeper into for the appreciative inquiry, how are they maybe alike or different? So create yourself a Venn diagram and put the things that you believe only belong on the appreciative inquiry side, only belong on the school improvement side, or what goes together in the middle. Because this is a system that we are working with, right? And we don't want what we're doing in this grant to sit separately from what the schools are doing with school improvement. So to take about 7 minutes with your elbow partner or your trio and see what you can fit onto this Venn diagram. And I didn't try and do the middle part of the Venn diagram. But that appreciative inquiry, appreciating and valuing the best of what is, envisioning what might be, dialoguing what should be, and the assumption is that an organization is a mystery to be embraced. And then the school improvement, so I made the link to the problem solving piece, the felt need identification of the problem, analysis of causes, analysis and possible solutions, then we have action planning or the treatment, right? And the assumption is that an organization is a problem to be solved. Okay, so it might not be exactly that needs, but I think one of the things, and all of us have been in school improvement for forever, right? And so one of the things for me, a key learning for me was that just by asking a question, you're changing the future. Right? So when you ask the positive questions, you're gearing things in that direction as opposed to when you're always poking at the problem and the cause. Right? And then another analogy that kind of made sense to me, and you can see whether maybe there's other analogies that make sense to you, is that we didn't get the light bulb by helping make the candle burn brighter. Right? So sometimes the school improvement process looks like, how do we get it a little brighter? And how do we get it brighter again? How do we, how do we change the wax? And how do we make the, it's more about refining and taking those, it's more like that technical change as opposed to the adaptive change. And so really in some of these schools, like, have you been in one that people are not working hard? Because in all the instructional rounds that I've been in, everybody is working so hard. So it's sort of like they're working to make the candles burn brighter. And hopefully in this process, with appreciative inquiry, we can move more towards that light bulb moment with them. And they're hungry for it. At least the ones that I've been in, they want it. So I'm going to leave you with that. We are going to have lunch. And here's what's going to work best is if we go out the back door, because it's in the hallway, and then you come back this way to get it.